1645, a little song for you and I. The 1 and the 6 and the 4 and the 5, to elevate or to revive. Guitar skills to bring them alive. Never know how far you'll go till you try. Possibilities from you to derive. Your own voice to raise to the skies. 1645, a little song for you and I. Hi, this is Munson from Munson Music, and we're going to this is sort of a request review idea, but I've been meaning to do a lesson like this because I present a lot of different possibilities in my how to play tutorials. The idea really is that you have a lot of rhythm vocabulary and you have a lot of chord possibility, you have a lot of lick possibilities. They can all go together to kind of work solo arrangements for yourself so that you can figure out how you want to play the song and kind of make your own voice from the song. So I'm kind of presenting this as kind of a how far you can go and getting to the next level actually of wherever you are in guitar playing. And so this particular lesson we're kind of dealing with a G major chord and an E minor chord and a C major chord and a D major chord and lots of possibilities. And so this is the 1 chord in the key of G major, if you're familiar with the G major scale and kind of that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, or do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do scale, do, re, mi, fa, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the G is the 1, and then our E minor, or our E note, is our 6, and our C note is our 4, and then the D note is the 5. So that's the 1645 of that intro song that to kind of present this idea. And so we start out on a G major chord. We'll talk about a lot of different ways to kind of play this with strumming and also with some fingerstyle later. But we start out on G major, and you're probably familiar with this chord. You do your first finger on the A string 2nd fret, second finger on the low E string 3rd fret, and the third finger on the high E string 3rd fret. That sounds a G major chord. It sounds really happy. Now a lot of times while you're on G's, you're really playing G's and B's and D notes. Actually, it's got G, B, D, G, B, G. Is kind of your G chord. So as long as you're playing those notes, it's still a G chord. So you could kind of put your 3rd finger on the B string 3rd fret, pinky on the high E string. That's kind of a popular way to play the G major. Or there are lots of other chord possibilities actually, and one way to think about them is kind of following the G major scale through the chord. And this is kind of an interesting idea, but I thought this would be cool. Is you've got the high E on the 3rd fret's a G note, 2nd fret on the high E is an F sharp note, open E is kind of a E note, and then 3rd fret on the B is a D note. 1st fret on the B is a C, then you got open B, then you got G on the 2nd fret for an A note, and then a G. So you kind of have this root position G major of kind of G, A, B, C, B, E, F sharp, G. So you can add those to your chords. So like on your G, you got a regular G. You could slide that 3rd finger back to 2nd fret and get the F sharp note in. That would be called an F major 7. Yeah, you could lift that finger off and make it a G major 13. You could put the 3rd finger back in on the B string and kind of still have the G major 13 now, kind of following that D melody. You could readjust the fingers for your 2nd finger on the A string, 3rd finger on the low E string, pinky on the high E string for a G chord to get that 1st fret B or C note in. It's kind of a G sus kind of sound. Then you got your B note as kind of a melody, or you could even add in the A note on the G string, 2nd fret for a G, for like a G, add 9, G major 9, and then you can lift it off for the G. So while you're on G chords in general, it can be kind of cool to kind of take that scale idea and kind of play around with it. It gives you a lot of different chords for your palette, for your vocabulary. And we'll talk about some other ways to play that too, but that can be a cool idea through the other chords. So this is our 1 chord is the G. Then we go to our 6th chord, which is our E minor. We got 1 on the A string, 2nd fret, 2nd finger on the D string, 2nd fret. That sounds an E minor chord, and it sounds really sad. And we can take that same idea for the E minor. If you add in the high E on the 3rd fret, you're just adding another G note to E's and G's and B's, E's and G's and B's. So still an E minor chord, but if you slide it back to 2nd fret on the high E, it sounds an E minor 9 chord. Got the F sharp note in it. Then you got our irregular E minor. You could add in the B string 3rd fret for E minor 7. You could readjust the fingers with 2 on the A string, 3rd finger on the D string to get the 1st fret B note, C into it for an E minor with a flat 13. And then if you lift that off, then you've got E minor. It's kind of just your regular E minor. If you add the pinky in on the G string 2nd for that A note, that's an E sus chord. You got E minor. So even though they're like all these chord names, you really could just kind of think, hey, that's some cool sounds to add in around that chord, you know, and you can mix them up all kinds of different ways. So even though a chart may say E minor, it doesn't mean you just play that one chord. You could really play any of those chords and kind of play around with that sound, at least in the key of G major. That's my disclaimer. And we could take that same idea for a C chord. So you could do the first finger on the B string, first fret, second finger on the D string, second fret, third finger on the A string, third fret for your C major chord. Or we could follow those notes of the scale. So we could add in the pinky on the high E third, kind of a C major chord, because we got C's and E's and G's, so we're adding another G note. If you added in the F sharp note on the high E, this would be an interesting sound. It's kind of a C major with a sharp 11, or a sharp 4. It's kind of an F sharp note. Or you could lift that off and kind of get the regular C chord. You could add in the pinky on the third fret B string for a C major 9. Or you could take the first finger and go to the B string, first fret, and that's a C note, so it's still a C chord. Or you could lift that off and get a C major 7 chord. Or you could add in the first finger on the G second for the A note, and kind of back to the G, or kind of a C major 6 through that, or C major 13. So you may want to kind of play around with just kind of following that idea of the melody notes. It can be kind of a cool thing to do. Now on the C chord too, and actually on the E minor, there are some drone voicings for these chords where you could do, I call them drones. Drone means that you're playing a lot of the same notes as kind of a ringing sound, kind of like a bagpipe or a dulcimer. So on the G chord, I kind of presented that 3 and 4 G major. Well, you could kind of do the E minor that same way with the first finger on the A string second, second finger on the D string second, keeping the third finger on the B string third, pinky on the high E third, make an E minor 7. And there's a cool C major non-voicing where you can do first finger on the D second, second finger on the A string third, third finger on the B string third, pinky on the high E third. Kind of work that for your C major non. And then from the C chord, or it's kind of our 4 chord, we're going to our D major chord, and the way we play D major. First finger goes to the G on the second fret, second finger on the high E second fret, third finger on the B string third fret, and if you strum the D string to the high E string, that's a D major chord. And while you're on Ds, it can be very cool to kind of follow that same melody idea. Actually, if you put in the pinky on the high E third, that makes a D sus, or a D suspended. If you lift it off, then you've got a regular D major shape. Lift that off, kind of that second finger off the high E, that sounds a D sus 2, which can be a cool sound. And actually, you end up kind of saying some things, a lot of D chords through different tunes. Or you could add that C note in by doing almost a D7 idea, where you got first finger on the B string first fret, second finger on the G string second, third finger on the high E second. It's kind of a D7 chord idea. You could even kind of lift off the third finger there and make it kind of a D7 sus 2. Or add the pinky in on the high E third, and that sounds a D7 sus. Or you could just kind of think, just kind of the D string, G string, B string to bring out that C note. Then you could kind of lift off the first finger and kind of add in the B note or the 6 to that chord, so kind of a D major 6 idea. Or you could do just the D and the A, or the D and the G string together to get that A note in. That's kind of a D5 idea, or the D power chord idea. And then if you lift that off, then you can kind of get that D and G of the melody. So that can be kind of cool to kind of follow that scale and kind of see what you can say with those chords. And you can kind of experiment. So it's a lot of different chord possibilities around each of those chords, with the 1 and the 6 and the 4 and the 5. A lot of times on D chords, it can be kind of cool to get that F sharp, kind of like our bass leads, to kind of lead back to the G chord. And you could do that with a thumb on the low E string second fret, or you could do it with first finger on the low E second, second finger on the G second, third finger on the high second, pinky on the B string third, kind of work that for your D slash F sharp. Or you could use a D sus slash F sharp, which might be a little bit easier to do, where you do first finger on the low E second, second finger on the G string second, third on the B string third, and the pinky on the high E string third. So it's kind of like that drone idea. 3 and 4 just kind of stay there, and actually go with the D sus. A lot of different chord possibilities around each of those chords, with the 1 and the 6 and the 4 and the 5, kind of for our going back to our song. And there are lots of rhythm possibilities to kind of set those chords up and kind of let them work in different styles. So even though a song may mix up these chords too. You can take these ideas in the key of G and kind of play around with it. And sometimes the first chord isn't necessarily the key, like Sweet Home Alabama would be one where you got D and C and G is kind of or actually Sweet Child of Mine's that same progression. You've got a lot of different things where you've got just G and C and D is kind of mixing it up too, like Wagon Wheel would be G and D and E minor, C, D, D, C, C. Now there are lots of rhythm ideas that you could play around with those chords too. So you could, one way is to kind of do something I call blocking. This can always be a good idea if you're just starting out with a tune and you just want to kind of walk through just the left hand part. So you could do just downstrokes on those chords. And so that could be kind of a cool way to kind of work that chord change. And you could play around with those drone voicings, or even kind of doing a downstroke and then playing notes of the scales. So that could be kind of a cool thing too, especially as a freeform idea. You could make up melodies around that. So that could be kind of a cool idea too. Or a lot of times, especially when drums kick in a song and all of a sudden it's like, I want a strum pattern that will match this. And there are a lot of different possibilities depending on the song. Most songs are going to work something called a 4/4 on the floor, which is called a common time, which you could kind of work as kind of just a 4-down idea. Or you could work it as kind of a double time idea with that. And I kind of dig on doing that a little bit more than just 4 downs, which is kind of where you're kind of feeling the 8th notes of each chord. And I'm kind of adding a little bit of right hand muting that now, so I'm kind of putting the flat of my right hand down on top of the saddle to kind of make it a little sneaky. So that's kind of the down mute idea, which is almost kind of like a rock idea. So you may want to kind of play around with that. But there are lots of different meters and different times that you're going to encounter. So you may want to kind of try just a 2-down idea on each chord, for instance. Just kind of throwing that out there. Or a 3-down idea. To kind of feel a 3 idea. Kind of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, or 4. And you can even kind of feel that as the 8th idea. 1, 2, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1. So it can be kind of a cool thing to kind of experiment with different numbers. Or you can do 6. 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Or the 8. 5, 6, 7, 8. So you can try different down ideas actually, and that can be very cool to help you kind of feel the meter and feel some odd things too. Actually, it can be kind of cool. But normally a song is going to be in 4/4 time, and one of my favorite strum patterns for a 4/4 is down, down, up, up, down, up. So we took the G and just tried that a lot. You'd have down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down. Now the cool thing about this particular strum pattern is you're practicing downs, you're practicing down ups, and you're practicing ups, which is kind of a cool thing because every strum pattern you ever encounter will be composed in some type of form of downs, down ups, and ups. So by practicing this one strum pattern, you can actually kind of get used to this strum pattern and what it feels like is kind of a 4 idea. And then you might even try just a lot of downs, just that one idea, or a lot of down ups, or you can try a lot of ups, and then kind of say some things with just that one rhythm too. So you may want to kind of take that idea, which I present in a lot of my videos because I love this strum pattern, but really you can get, because I think it's a doorway into kind of more advanced strumming. Lots of down ups, lots of downs, lots of ups, and then all of a sudden you may want to kind of play around with that idea. Other strums or other rhythm ideas may come out of it because that will become vocabulary for you. Down, down, up, can turn into all kinds of things like down, up, or down, down, up, very cool thing to do. Now, something else to kind of add to that to make it slightly more advanced can be bass notes. And a lot of times on that first down of the down, down, up, down, up, you'll be throwing a bass for the chord. So on the G, you'd have low E for the bass. On the E minor, you'd have low E for the bass. On the C, you'd have the A for the bass. And on the D, you'd have the D for the bass. So you could kind of play around with it that way and kind of make it a bass down, up, down, up. Or experiment with other strummings with bass notes. Gives you your downbeat of kind of that G, so now you're feeling where the 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of is in measure. So that can be a very, very cool thing to kind of play around with too. Now on a slightly different note, so I'm going to try and kind of do this as kind of a strum switch to fingerstyle kind of idea. If you're interested in fingerstyle, alright, introduction to fingerstyle 101. Your thumb with your right hand kind of becomes your bass player. And normally his job, and I'm talking freestyle here, not soloing necessarily, but your thumb kind of ends up playing the E and the A and the D string normally for your bass notes. And one really easy way to kick off fingerstyle for yourself is to kind of line up the index finger for the G string, middle finger for the B string, and ring finger for the high E string. And all of a sudden you have a kind of a division of labor of kind of like thumb can be the bass player, index can play the G, middle can play the B string, ring finger can play the high E string. And so it kind of gives you like a little voice for each string. And you may want to start with just kind of a thumb, index, middle, ring. And normally, sometimes I gravitate towards classical guitar with this idea because they're the first ones who wrote method books kind of in Spanish guitar players back in the 1700s. So sometimes the thumb is called P for pulgar because that's what it is in Spanish. And the index finger is I for indeso. The middle finger is M for medio. And the ring finger is angular or A for angular, and the pinky, if you use it, is kind of C for kind of chica, or chico, like the little finger. So you have Pimac, P-I-M-A-C, but normally the pinky and the ring finger have such a strong connection tendon-wise, you end up using those together. So a lot of times I think of the pinky as the brains and the ring finger as the brawn. You think of the stroke from the pinky, and then your ring finger is kind of the one who does all the actual work. So one good arpeggio, or broken chord is what arpeggio means, to start off with the right hand, is you could just try that thumb, index, middle, ring. Now there are lots of different ways to kind of mix this up, but you may want to kind of try doing that arpeggio and then going through the song that way. So this can be kind of a cool way to kind of work into some fingerstyle, or you could add those other notes in the chords, or you could mix it up different ways too. So you could kind of do the thumb, index, middle, ring as kind of an idea to kind of start off with, and that could be kind of a cool way to kind of warm up to fingerstyle. Now another way you could use the fingers actually is to do your strumming, so you don't necessarily have to use a pick. And a lot of times I gravitate towards index finger strums, but you really could use the thumb if that feels better to you. So you could take the down, down, up, up, for instance, and work it as a strum idea with a finger. So that might be something that kind of appeals to you. Sometimes using just the finger, you can feel the strings better, so it's a little bit easier to kind of work things. Or you could even do multiple fingers, and if you were going to work strums with multiple fingers, it's almost like a rasgueado flamenco idea. And you could kind of get an accent where you kind of do kind of the pinky first and kind of roll the fingers out. It's kind of a pinky middle, or pinky ring middle index kind of idea. And nails help with this. So I'm still doing down, down, up, right? But kind of, and you could even throw in basses for this, kind of the bass rasgueado, up, rasgueado. So my downs are becoming rasgueado ideas. Kind of the same kind of idea, but just mix up the arpeggio. So you could kind of take the thumb, index, middle, ring idea and mix it up all kinds of ways. You could do thumb, middle, index, ring, or thumb, ring, middle, index, and I'm just working combinations of 4. You could even make it combinations of 3, or combinations of 2, or even following that melody line. Now I'm kind of doing it as a thumb index. It actually just feels better, but that could be a cool way to kind of work it too. Or kind of a bass fingers idea, or thumb fingers idea can be kind of a cool idea too, fingerstyle wise. And sometimes adding in other percussion can be cool too, kind of a thumb fingers slap kind of idea. Very Tesla in a way, kind of a more than words idea. Or you could do kind of a thumb, and let's see, we can do it twice even. Or do it all together, thumb, fingers, all together. I wanted to throw in another arpeggio there. So there's all kinds of ways you can mix it up. You know, this is just where I'm kind of playing, experimenting is really where it's at. Really, you kind of take that kind of bass idea with the fingers and kind of work that idea too. Idea too. Now another popular style actually, and this can be kind of cool, is working something called a country feel. And actually I call it country feel, but you'll find this in R&B, you'll find it in gospel, you find it in a lot of stuff. You find this a lot of stuff. But the main thing is our main bass note right now is the root note of the chord. So on the G chord, we're kind of playing the low E string G note for that chord. It's kind of a G note. And so a lot of times that note gets alternated with something called the fifth. And if you were going to take a G note and count up 5, G, A, B, C, D, a D note is the fifth of a G chord. So the other popular 4/4 pattern that you'll hear a lot is kind of going a root for the chord and then a down, up, or down, and then doing the D string on the G chord for the fifth of the chord and then another down, up. So it's kind of a root, down, up, fifth, down, up, low E string, D string, low E string, D string, kind of on the G chord. If we took that idea, the E minor, you'd be alternating the A string to the E string to the A string, kind of the E bass, A bass, but you're really playing an E and an E note for the bass notes. And on the C, you'd be going between a C and a G note. And I like to do this as 3rd fret on the A string, kind of alternating to the low E on the 3rd fret. So I'm playing a C and a G note. So A 3rd, low E 3rd, A 3rd, low E 3rd. And then on the D, you're doing the D string to the A string is kind of an alternation idea. So kind of D bass, A bass, D bass, A bass. So you could kind of try the progression that way, and that could be kind of a cool idea to kind of do it with kind of a country feel. Or you can mix it up and try different bass notes. Actually, it can be kind of cool to kind of throw those in. Or you may find some licks around the chords too that you kind of dig on. So it can be kind of cool to kind of throw in some extra paces actually, and you'll hear some really typical walks actually. From the G major, normally you'll have the G and you'll hear an F sharp note if we were kind of leading to an E minor chord. And then from the E minor to the C, you may normally hear a D note, kind of an E, D, to lead into the C chord. And sometimes it can be kind of cool to do a C, C sharp note to lead into the D note actually. So now you can kind of make it kind of a bass, down, up, bass, 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 down, up, bass, 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 to get some kind of leading notes into the progression. You might want to go low E to lead back to the F sharp, to lead back to the G. So that would be a really typical progression with bass walks. Bass walks can be kind of cool and they can get embellished a lot. Or Or another idea that can be kind of cool too is another way to play the D major. This is just kind of an open-ended concept. Is you could take the C major shape, for instance, and if you slide that shape over 2 frets, it's something I call D add 4. It's kind of a D major chord, but you have a G note kind of thrown into it, and the E note thrown into it. So there's kind of a 9 and 11. And a lot of those same melody notes, actually, we could work around that shape, actually, which can be kind of cool too. A little stretch back there. But that can be kind of a cool idea in general, actually, to kind of take the shapes and kind of move them around too. If you slid this shape, for instance, all the way up to 8th, 9th, and 10th fret, it would be a little G major chord. And then a E minor, now this would change the shape a little bit, but you'd have 5th on the D, 5th on the B string, and then kind of 7th on the A. I'm kind of doing a weird stretch there. Although for an E minor, really all you need is the 5th fret on the D, 5th fret on the A, or 7th fret on the A. It's kind of a little E minor shape. And then you could kind of work the C major, or the C major 9, and then slide it back to the D. See, this is kind of a drone idea too. You got a lot of open strings, but you could kind of work that G major as a C shape, and then the E minor kind of work that little way, kind of a little C chord shape, little D chord shape, or you can even work just that one little piece of it and kind of keep the drums going. And what we're doing is kind of working off some things called thirds, actually, with that. This is kind of a weird deal, but I love it. Yeah. So kind of that shape from the A string 10th to the D string 9 is something called a major third shape for a G chord. So even though I'm kind of working just the A string to the high E string, and I've got an open E that's added to that chord, it still kind of sounds like a G. And then if you go to 5th fret on the D and 7th fret on the A, it's kind of an E minor chord. I'm playing E's and G's and G's and B's and E's. Or for the C chord, it's kind of that C major 9 idea, and then kind of taking that little piece of kind of a D sus4. So that could be kind of a cool idea too to kind of play around with. Kind of working drones, just kind of throwing that in. It's kind of an idea there. Or you can even take that idea for your fingerstyle, which this could be kind of cool too. Okay. It might be kind of cool working the A string and the D string for your bass. Kind of A string, D string, almost the root 5th idea. And the root 5th idea could kind of work as kind of a fingerstyle idea as well. You could kind of take that thumb, index, middle ring and make it kind of a root 5th kind of idea on each chord. So root 5th, E minor, C. Yeah, you might want to play around with that G fiddle. I just kind of did the A. So it might be kind of cool to kind of play around with some different bass notes too. Or you could keep it on the root 5th. Throw in those bass wallets. Kind of mixing it up a little bit through that. I think that could be kind of a cool thing to play around with. Other arpeggios that you hear a lot, especially in country, and one of my favorites actually, is kind of a thumb, middle, index, ring, and then middle, index, middle. This is almost kind of like a landslide idea, although it's, we're in the key of G instead of C, but or E flat. So you may kind of dig on that too, and you can make that kind of a cool idea too. It just feels a little syncopated because of where the accents are kind of coming in. So thumb, middle, index, ring, middle, index, middle, thumb, middle, index, ring, middle, index, middle. That's kind of your idea through the progression. Or you can experiment with those other chords, which can be kind of cool. Or hanging on to other notes of the scale around that too. Or doing little licks around it. I kind of threw in that little hammer-on pull-off lick on the B string for that D add 4. So that can be kind of a really cool thing to do too. Or mix it up with strings you're arpeggiating too, as long as your bass note is kind of the root of the chord, you're going to kind of hear it as that chord. And randomly, it can also be cool, especially around the scale, if you're interested in kind of doing more solo arranging stuff, to be aware of that scale, of the G major scale. And randomly, our song that we started out with in the very, very beginning has a pretty easy melody to remember. You've got kind of that high E on the 3rd fret, and that 1st fret on the B string, and then 3rd fret on the B, right? It's kind of that idea, right? Kind of G, C, C, D, G, E, C, D, G, G, A, G, F sharp. Maybe we want to add some things. Da, 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 16, 45. A little song for you and I. Da, 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 and then that tag. Da, 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 little song for you and I. Right? So you could kind of try and pick out the melody of the song. And something else you could do with bass notes is kind of throw those in for your downbeats to kind of almost take the place of the bass player and the drummer, actually. Oh, I wanted to do that A so bad. Yeah. So you could kind of add in that low E string on the 3rd fret for the G note, and then go to the open E for kind of your bass and melody, right? And then to the D. So that'd be the weird part would be that end part, kind of that G, well, the C note for the G note, and the A, and then or D, and then the D for the A, and then the G for the low E. So that would be the weird part. Let's see. Because I got that little C D double top at the very end of the song. But that could be kind of cool too, to take your bass note and then kind of work that as kind of your idea, and then just kind of use the fingers. And now I'm doing more thumb for the bass, index middle is kind of an idea of alternation, kind of through that index middle, index middle, index middle is kind of alternating, almost like a down up with the pick, kind of that index middle, index middle, index middle, index middle, index middle, index middle, index. But you could kind of throw that bass note in. The melody, kind of find some other places to go. Or you could throw in hammer-on licks or pull-offs too. Or you can mix up the chord pattern too, actually. But that might be another idea that you want to kind of play around with, especially with solo arranging. That can be very, very cool to kind of use bass notes to imply your chords. Experiment with that. It's a little weird. You kind of think it two-part, almost like counterpart, almost like classical, almost like rock. But another idea would be to kind of more for rock style. You may want to use kind of a smaller version of the chord. So just like we were doing kind of that 3rd idea earlier, is kind of a drone idea. You could make that a 5th idea, and that's something is called power chords, where you do 1st finger on the low E string 3rd fret for the G note, and then you could take the 3rd finger on the A string 5th fret and kind of play just those 2 strings. Or if you want to make this even thicker, you could add in the pinky on the D string on the 5th fret and kind of make just a G and a D and a G note that way. So like the country feel, it's still a G and a D note, but now we're using them to make things sound very powerful. And so for the E minor, you could use an E5 power chord, where you could do low E string open and 2nd fret on the A string, or you could take the 1st finger all the way up to the A string 7th fret, 3rd finger on the D string 9 for an E5 power chord, or you can add the pinky to that, or in this particular case, if you're digging on that, throw in all of them. Kind of a big E5 there. And then for the C, you could use a C5 power chord. You can take that shape and kind of slide it down to the A string on the 3rd fret, 3rd finger on the D string on the 5th. It's kind of your regular C5, or you could add in the pinky for another C note. Or you could take that shape and slide it over to 5th and 7th fret, kind of a D5 idea with the pinky. Or another way to play G5 would even be going, if you're digging, almost riding out the A string thing. You could go to all the way to the A string on the 10th fret, 3rd finger on the D string 12, pinky on the G string 12 for a G5. So you may kind of dig on kind of that G5 kind of riding that out on the E string, where you can do the G5, the E5, and then go all the way to the 8th fret on the low E string for a C note, add that same shape, or add the pinky for C5, and then slide that shape over 2 frets for a D5 power chord. So now I got 10th fret on the low E and then 12 on the A and D. So you can kind of work it as kind of a rock idea too, and a lot of times you're doing muting with this, and I know I'm getting very Ramones on this particular idea, but that might be kind of a cool idea to kind of ride out those. And even if you're more of a folky player, like the bigger chords, actually just to recognize where those notes are on those, the E and the A string can be very important to kind of see those root notes. So that can be a very cool exercise too, to kind of work it as more of a rock idea. Is you, instead of doing the 4 idea, you may kind of dig on the 3 idea. And actually, you can even do this with the power chords, actually. Kind of that 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, kind of on each one. Or 1, 2, 3 on each one. Yeah, so you can take all those down ideas we started with and kind of mix them up that way. Fingerstyle wise, that can be a cool thing too. So you could kind of work kind of 3, 4 ideas as kind of a thumb, index, middle ring, middle index kind of an idea. Can kind of give you a 3 pulse. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that could be a cool idea to kind of play around with too with the fingerstyle. Or you could even, another popular arpeggio actually for Spanish Romance is a piece, is kind of a thumb and ring at the same time, and then middle index, and then another ring middle index, and another ring middle index. So now I'm kind of feeling 3s and 3s. So kind of a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you kind of dig on that too. Or if you wanted this to be in 4, you could actually kind of add another AMI. Kind of feel it in 3s. It's kind of a 12/8 idea, but you're kind of feeling 4 on the floor and you're dividing things in 3s. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. But you hear a lot actually kind of and a lot of blues fields will have that kind of idea. But now we're turning it into a classical fingerstyle kind of an idea. So there's lots of ways to kind of take all these ideas and kind of run with them too. So that way you can find something that you're really kind of attracted to. Now right now with the right hand, what we're doing is all these arpeggios for the right hand. But you can also do arpeggios in the left hand, or thinking about them as left hand arpeggios. So for the G, for instance, you'd have the low E string for your root, and then if you went to the A string on the 2nd fret, that would be a 3rd of that chord, kind of a root 3rd or G to B. And you could also do this on the low E7 for a B note. And then from the B, you could go to the A string on the 5th fret for a D note. So now I'm kind of taking that do, re, do, mi, so, or 1, 3, 5 kind of idea. And you can even make that a riff, which can be a cool idea. So for the E minor, you'd have the low E for your root. The G note on the 3rd fret on the low E string is your flat 3, and then the A string on the 2nd fret is your 5th. So now I'm kind of playing E's and G's and B's. So I'm taking the notes of the chords, but now it's becoming more of a left-hand idea. And then that same idea we were doing for the G, you could do for the C note, for a C, E, and a G note. And then you can kind of move that over for a D note. So that could be a cool idea too. Almost like a little kind of triplet, riff-oriented kind of approach to the song. But you'll also hear those notes, kind of that root 3, 5, kind of, especially in Latin stuff, you'll kind of hear that a good bit, actually, kind of for your bass on. And more poppy kind of stuff, too. So that could be kind of a cool thing to kind of try and play around with. And something else that can be kind of cool is to kind of take that idea and expand on it. So instead of doing just the root and the 3 and the 5 of the chord, you can do the 7 of the chord and make it a G major 7. And then the E minor, you can make an E minor 7. And then the C, you can make it a C major 7. And the D would end up being something called a D dominant 7. So now we're adding in the 7th of the chord. So you'd have a G and a G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, because of the key. Then I'm on the G chord. And then on the E, you got E, F, G, A, B, C, D. So I'm playing E to G to B to D. And then for the C chord, you'd be going C, E, G, A, B, well, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. So C, E, G, B is kind of 1, 3, 5, 7. And then for the D, you'd be playing D, F sharp, G, A, B, C for your 7. So D, F sharp, A, and then a C note's on the G string 5th fret. So that could be kind of a cool thing to do too, is kind of playing around with arpeggios. Randomly, on that topic of arpeggios, actually, a really famous one, sometimes this could be very cool to take an artist's idea, and then especially if you like the artist and you want your stuff to kind of sound like them, you can take an idea from an artist, and then all of a sudden you've got a way to kind of work it on the guitar to kind of through other songs, or maybe even your songs. So another way of breaking up the chord, right now we're kind of talking about arpeggios, kind of breaking up the chord, but you don't necessarily have to keep them in order like that, actually. One really cool example would be Every Breath You Take by the Police, for instance, where they kind of take the arpeggio, but it ends up being a root to a 5th, to a 9, and then to a 3rd, and then back to a 9, and then back to the 5. And they kind of mix it up, so you're going root 5, 9, 5, 3, 9, 5, 9. It's kind of that main arpeggio of kind of that song, so that could be kind of a cool idea to take for your G chord, for instance. On the E minor, in the scale anyway, you'd end up with a flat 3rd, and now I'm going to 12th fret on the low E string to kind of take that same finger pattern. Actually, I think this could be really useful to kind of see it this way. So I'm going 12, 14, 16, 14, 12, 16, 14, 16 for that E minor chord. So we're getting some 9s going on. And then you could take that same idea for the C that we had on the G, and the same idea on the D that we were kind of doing on the C. So that could be a cool idea, is to kind of take a song idea, for instance, and then adjust it for another song, and then all of a sudden you've got a Police version of our 1645 song. So you may want to kind of play around with that too. That could be kind of a cool idea. Or if you've got another artist on your mind, or somebody that you love, go and steal all their licks, and then you can write stuff that sounds like them. But another strum pattern that I would think about, especially through tunes, is a 16th note strum pattern. And what I mean by that is, if you're tapping your foot at the beat, right now we're dividing that beat into 2 parts with our down, down, up, up, down, up. 1, 2, 1, 2, and that's called an 8th note. What a 16th note is where you divide that into 4 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And one of my favorite 16th note strum patterns, and this is kind of going into rock ballad, I guess, it's a long down, 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 up, up, down, down, up, down, up. And what I mean by that is, if you're tapping your foot to the beat, right now we're kind of dividing that beat into 2 parts with our down, down, up, down, up. 1, 2, 1, 2, and that's called an 8th note. What a 16th note is where you divide that foot tap into 4 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And one of my favorite 16th note strum patterns is long down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, up. And what I mean by that is, if you take the G and do it down for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what you'd be doing on the first beat. Then on the second beat, you'd be doing it down on 1, down on 3, up on 4. So you'd be going 1, 2, 3, 4, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. So, and then on the third beat, you'd be doing it up on 2, down on 3. So you'd be going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, up, down, 1, up, down, 1, up, down. And then on the fourth beat, you'd be going down, up, right along with the 1, 2, 3, 4. See that? Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down, down. So all together, you got down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, down, down. You could add basses to this too, and make it a bass. Have a bass. Down, down, up, down, down, up, down, or bass, bass, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, or bass, bass, down, down, up, bass, down, down, up. So that might be kind of a cool way to kind of work it through that progression too. Or you can mix this up kind of in the same way we did with our 16th note or 8th note pattern. In the same way, practicing down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, can kind of help you. This particular pattern can be very cool too. If you're practicing that down, 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 up with the 16th, the up, down, and the down, up, down, up. Now another 16th pattern that can be very, very cool to kind of play around with too is a slightly different one. And actually, it's kind of cool because it divides the 4 beat that we're doing into 3 plus 3 plus 2, which actually this is kind of a cool thing to try too. Kind of a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, doing 8 downs, but I'm feeling it in 3, 3, and 2. It's kind of accent-wise, rhythm-wise. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And a 16th note strum pattern that does that is a down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And what I mean by that is if you're doing a down on 1 and then an up on 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what you'd be doing on the first beat. And then on the second beat, you do the up on 2, down on 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, up, down, 1, up, down, 1, up, down. And then on the third beat, you do an up on 2, up on 4. So you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, up, 1, up, up. And then on the last beat, you go down, up, just like the other pattern. So the down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And what's kind of cool about this pattern is you still got your down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Different pieces of vocabulary, or 16th note vocabulary with this pattern. So now we kind of have this long down, up idea, up, down, and up, idea. Now there's lots of other ways to mix this up with the 16th patterns too. But I really like these two patterns, and actually even switching between them can be very cool. Or adding basses to them. Bass, up, down, bass, can be kind of cool too. So you can kind of take that idea of 16th, or alternate between them, which is where this is really kind of going, is taking as many different styles as you can. So that way if you got a sound in your head, you'll know what to do to get it. Measure on each chord. Another idea, and actually this is kind of one of the ideas in the original song, is halving that idea between the chords. So you have the G with the bass, down, down, up, and then go to the E minor for the up, bass, down, and down, and kind of halve the chords through the song. And it starts feeling a little bit more funky that way. Or you can do that same idea with the other 16th pattern too. Kind of the bass, up, bass, up, down, bass, up, bass, down, bass, up, down, down. If you want things to feel really, really funky though, actually kind of that bass, down, down, up, bass, down, would be a cool thing to have too. And the only thing missing actually for some really cool funk, it would be some funkier chords. And you can work these off of bar chords. If you're familiar with bar chords, all of these chords that we're playing right now, you could do as bars. So the G major, for instance, you could do as a 3rd fret bar, 2nd finger on the G string on the 4th fret, 3rd finger on the A string 5th, pinky on the D string 5th for a G major. It's kind of a bar G major. And then for the E minor, you could do it as a bar on 7th fret on the across the everything but the low E string. Actually, that's what I like to kind of get the low E string in on this. And then you can do 2nd finger on the B string 8th fret, 3rd on the D string 9, pinky on the G string 9. That's kind of an E minor chord. Or you could lift off the pinky and make that an E minor 7, which would be a cool idea. Or there's some even funkier chords for this especially. But you could do an E minor 9, where you do the 1st finger on the D string 5th, 2nd finger on the A string 7, and take the 3rd finger and kind of flatten them over the G being the for an E minor chord, and that can be cool with the low E string too. And for the G, actually, if you want things to sound really, really funky, you can do a G major, this is a 9 or 6 actually. You can do low E string on the 3rd fret, 2nd finger on the D 4th fret, 3rd finger on the G string on the 4th fret, and the pinky over the top 2 strings on the E and the B on the 5th. For kind of a G major 13, I'm kind of muting out the A string on that particular chord. It's going to be a very funky, cool chord, or 9 or the E minor 7. And then from there, we'd be going to a C major. For the C major, you could do a C major 7, which could be very cool. Where you do 1st finger across the entire 3rd fret, 2nd finger on the G string 4th fret, 3rd finger on the D string 5th fret, and the pinky on the B string 5th fret. Kind of work it that way. Or you could use a C major 13, or you could do the 1st finger over the D and the G on the 2nd fret, 2nd finger on the A string 3rd, 3rd finger over the high E and the B string on the 3rd fret. Kind of work that as a C major 6-9 or C major 13. And then for the D, you could work it as a bar chord by doing 5th fret bar, 3rd finger on the D7, pinky on the B string 7. Kind of work it as a D7 chord. Or Or you could take the third finger and kind of go over the D, G, and D and make that a double bar, and kind of work that as the D major. Or you could use a D9, which can be a very cool sound too, where you do first finger on the D fourth, second finger on the A string fifth, and third finger over the G, B, and E. Kind of work that for your D. So you can take any of those patterns actually and just kind of make it slightly jazzier chords, or make it a bar exercise for yourself, which can be kind of cool too. Kind of get used to doing bar chords. So I can get a very cool thing too. Oh, oops. Went major 7 and stepped down, y'all. Or you can add basses to those. So on the G, we still got the low E for the bass. On the E minor 9, you may want to do the low E for the bass on those other bars. On the C, you can do the A string for the bass, and on the D, you can have the A for the bass, and work that D9 or the D7. So you can kind of work it that way too, and make it a little bit funkier. You can take the half an idea we were doing and kind of work it that way, and that's what I was kind of doing in this song. Working a lot of that progression. G, minor, C, D, or you can try the other strum pattern. First finger on the Louis third, second finger on the B string third, third finger on the D string fourth, and pinky on the G string fourth, and the G major 7. So that can be a cool voicing to kind of work for that too. Now smaller versions of these chords can be kind of cool too. You can even do just low E on the third, second finger on the A string second, and then third finger on the D string on the fourth fret, and the G major 7. Very cool. Or you can do the E minor as kind of an E minor 7, where you do first finger on the A string on the 7, first finger on the D fifth, pinky on the G string 7. And you could work kind of a root 3/5 idea for C by doing an A string on the third, second fret on the D, and then fourth fret on the G string. And the D7 you could do is kind of an A string fifth, first finger on the fourth fret on the D, third finger on the G string. You can even work that with drones if you dig on that. Or the G shape, you can even work as kind of that drone idea, kind of going 10th fret on the A string for the G, first finger on the D9, third finger on the G11. Oh, with that E in there is really E minor 7, but kind of thinking of that G major shape. And then the E minor, and then the C major 7, and the D9 that way. And that can be very, very cool. That sounds all pop. I'm kind of working with the A string for the bass, actually on that meaning idea. So that might be kind of a cool idea too. Now if you dig on blues more, you can actually kind of take that sort of that blues idea and make it dominant 7s, and this is kind of throwing the idea at you. In blues, normally all your chords get turned into 7 chords. So instead of playing a G chord, you can play a G7 chord, where you do first finger on the high E on the first fret, second finger on the A string second fret, third finger on the low E string third fret, and kind of a G7 chord. That sounds nasty, doesn't it? All right, or you can do kind of as a G7 bar with first finger over the third fret, second finger on the G string fourth, third finger on the A string fifth, and a really typical blues idea would be kind of working a swing note with the pinky to the 7th fret on the A string. So you can kind of play around with that idea. Now on the E, you can kind of get that same kind of sound, and I say that, you could make it an E7 chord, where you do first finger on the G string first fret, second finger on the A string second fret, and now we're making it an E7, which sounds really nasty. Or you can even take the pinky and kind of add it on the B string on the 3rd fret, E7. Or randomly, one of my other favorite E7s of all times is an E9, where you do first finger on the D string on the 6th fret, second finger on the A string 7th fret, third finger with the G, B, and E8. Kind of work that for your E9. Or if you want more of a Hendrixy kind of thing, you can make it an E7 sharp 9, where you do first finger on the D 6th fret, second finger on the A7, third finger on the G7, pinky on the B string 8th. Work that for your E7. Now we're going nasty blues. Or you can even work kind of an E7 up there on the 7th fret for kind of your bar, if you kind of dig on that instead. Or, and for the C, we could do the same idea. We could go, hey man, let's make it a dominant sound, really, really cool. Alright, so on the C chord, you can kind of take the pinky and go to the G string on the 3rd fret and add a B flat to that note. So now we're adding in notes that aren't part of the key, but we're kind of still using the idea of around the chord. Or you could use a C9, where you do 1st finger on the D second, 2nd finger on the A string, 3rd finger of the G, B, and E. It's kind of a C chord. And then for the D, we could actually use that D9 or D7 idea. And normally in blues, actually, there are 2 main feels. Normally it's either a swing 8th or it's a triplet. And what a triplet is where if you're tapping your foot at the beat, you're dividing that beat into 3 parts. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you want to kind of take the G. So now we're kind of feeling things in 3s. Down, down, up, down, 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 down. And you can even kind of work that through the tune. Or the idea of a swing 8th is kind of doing your down ups, but you're thinking long short. It's kind of long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short. And they're almost related to each other. Although some people swing notes different ways, but that can be a cool way to kind of think about it. Triplet, 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 long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short. Is the weirdest one, actually. Instead of the E7, right, you may want to kind of keep it as kind of an E minor idea in your head. You're using the E minor 7 instead. And actually, this gets used a lot, especially in 60s rock. This idea is kind of superimposing the dominant 7s. And I say that, it's kind of a bluesy idea originally. Go back to kind of those strum patterns with the 16. So sometimes the chord type can be kind of become a color, is what kind of happens with that E7 and the C7 and the G7, which you could even make a G13. Where you do 1st finger on the low E string 3rd, 2nd finger on the D 3rd, 3rd finger on the G string 4th, and the pinky on the high E string 5th. So now I'm just moving 1 finger to make it from a C major 13 to G13, G major 13 to G13. Now all of these ideas could be applied to fingerstyle too. Arpeggio idea from the intro with fingerstyle and now kind of applying it to those chords, kind of substitutions. Or you can kind of play around with with those other chords that we were doing too with that same idea. And now I'm just kind of making it more of a 16th feel with kind of how I'm feeling the bass, chord, bass, chord, bass, chord, bass, bass, chord, bass, chord, bass, chord, bass, bass, chord, bass, chord, bass, chord, bass. But it's more of a feeling in this as the 16th, even though it's kind of a fingerstyle idea. So that can be kind of a cool idea to kind of play around with too. And you'll hear that feel actually a lot in R&B too, actually kind of using the major 7 and then kind of working the dominant 7 or the E minor 7 or using the G major 7. of take the strum idea of the 16th and try and work it as kind of a fingerstyle idea, or a strumming idea, or Basquiat idea. Now a couple other patterns that can be kind of cool too. Actually, that 16th pattern could work in 3, and actually we could put them together in all kinds of different ways. But like, for instance, if we took the down, 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 up, and then just did the down, up, just to kind of try that, you could, you know, as an example of altering the 16th for 3/4. So you have down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, for bass, down, down, up, down, up, down, up, bass, down, down, up, down, up, down. So we're kind of feeling things at a 16th, but we're working it as a 3/4. Feel that you'll hear a good bit is something called reggae. And in a reggae pattern, a lot of times what you do is you'll take the chord and kind of work a bass and then a down up, and then you kind of kill the strings, and then another down, and then you kind of kill it. So kind of a bass, down, kill it, down, 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 bass, down, kill it, down. Which you could also do with the fingers, kind of that. Yeah. Kind of a bass, fingers twice, and then bass chord, right? So you can take that idea as a fingerstyle idea. Or something else you hear more and more of is ska. A ska idea with that kind of a bass up, bass up, randomly a lot in dance music lately. I've been hearing a lot of reggae or ska. So you'd have G with the bass up, E minor, C, B, G, E minor, C, D. Which you could kind of do fingerstyle too. Bass chord, bass chord, bass chord, bass chord, can be kind of a cool idea too. Now something else you may want to think about actually is working this as kind of a waltz idea. Actually, kind of running through some styles now. Which is more like a straight ahead 3/4, and one of my favorite strum patterns for a 3/4 is down, down, up, down, up. So you took the G, for instance, and just did that a lot. You have down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down. So now we're kind of feeling things in 3. So and you could even make that a bass, down, up, or a bass, down, up, bass, 2, 3, bass, bass, up, down, bass, up, down, up, bass, down, up, bass, down, up, bass, down. So any variation of 3/4 can be kind of cool too to play around with. Bass, 2, 3, and even kind of working just the down idea actually is kind of a bass, down, bass, down. And normally in a traditional waltz, this is kind of your feel, kind of Amazing Grace-esque in a way. Bass, down, bass, down, which you can alternate with the big downs. Or something that you'll hear as kind of a jig idea off of that theme, where you can kind of feel things in 6s. So you could kind of think of it as a bass, down, down. It's kind of a jig idea in a way. Bass, down. And actually, even in this feel, it can be kind of cool to even bring back those bass ideas that we were talking about, kind of a jig. Especially in a country waltz, you could take the root 5th idea that we were doing and then kind of apply it to a 3/4, kind of a root, down, up, 5th, down, kind of an idea. songwriting or kind of interested in that, actually it can be very cool is to take some of these ideas and then mix them up and kind of figure out a way that you really kind of appeal to. Now those ideas can be applied to the fingerstyle too. Kind of that thumb, index, middle, ring, middle, index was kind of our basic 3 idea with the fingers. So kind of that G, kind of working the roots and the fifths for the thumb notes can be kind of a cool idea too. Or you can throw in some of those other bass notes, kind of that thumb, let's see, G, F sharp, and you can even throw that in this kind of thumb index idea, I guess, yeah. So you may want to kind of play around with that too, kind of try it as a fingerstyle idea. It can be kind of a cool idea too. Another cool fingerstyle pattern to play around with too would be a bossa, and this could be kind of cool even working off of those shapes we were just talking about, actually kind of that G major 13 or the 6/9 and the E minor 9 and the C major 9 and then the D 9, so kind of making these bigger chords. But I'm kind of lining up my fingers, actually kind of working the A string for the thumb, index, middle, ring on the D, G, and B. And you may want to do kind of a root, chord, and this is kind of using the 5th, where you could kind of take the 2nd finger and kind of make him the moving guy to go between the A string 10th and the low E 10th for the G major 13. And then for the E minor 9, you can kind of work that same idea from the A string 7 to the low E string on the 7. And then for the C major 13, you can kind of work the A string to the low E string for the root 5th. And then root 5th, root 5th. So now I'm kind of going bass, chord, chord, bass, chord, chord, kind of thinking with thumb and fingers. Oh, and this is a very cool thing with bossa too, is on that last chord, you could almost kind of anticipate the next chord, which is kind of a cool idea too. Kind of a bass chord, chord, bass chord, chord, bass chord, chord, bass chord, new chord, bass chord, chord, bass chord, chord, bass chord, chord, bass chord, new chord, bass chord, chord, bass chord, chord, bass chord, chord, bass chord, new chord, bass chord, chord, bass chord, chord, bass chord, chord, bass chord. So that might be kind of a cool way to kind of work that too. And that can be kind of a cool thing to try and work out hybrid picking too, which we haven't talked about in hybrid picking. But the idea there is to kind of get that same sound with the pick as your bass, and then kind of use the other fingers to kind of fill in the chord too. So you may want to kind of experiment with that idea too, and kind of work kind of with pick fingers idea instead of thumb fingers to get your basses in. So you want to kind of play around with that too. Or a lot of times, especially if you're working on a song, what can be cool is to kind of take a basic idea of the song or a basic riff of the song, kind of like that Police idea we were talking about as kind of an example of fusion in a way, you know, just taking arpeggio licks and then moving them around. And then you could apply them to this chord pattern. So for instance, in Sweet Home Alabama, there's this lick where you go D string twice, and then B string one time, and then G string twice. So that idea of kind of that D, 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 G, G, could be a lick. It's kind of a bass, bass, B, G, G idea to kind of work through that chord pattern. So it might be kind of cool to take a song that you're already playing or you've got a lick for, and kind of try it through some of the other songs that you're doing or different chord patterns that you're practicing too. Now another idea you may want to play around with is taking ideas from different tunes, actually different rhythm ideas, for instance. And one of my favorite rhythms of all time has got to be the Holst 5/4 Mars idea, and you'll hear it in Gladiator too. It's kind of that one. So it's triple and 1, 2. Let's see, one triple and 2, 3, 4, and 5. Triple and 2, 3, 4, and 5. Triple and 2, 3, 4, and 5. Kind of idea. with is more of kind of a jazz idea. Actually, kind of take an idea from a tune, like Take 5 by Dave Brubeck. Actually, it's kind of a 5/8 feel, but you can kind of feel it as kind of a bass up, bass up, bass up, bass up, bass up, bass up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can kind of work that through the tune. Not your typical idea. The idea really is kind of take a rhythm that you like and then find a way to do that through the progression. Or that can work really well as a fingerstyle too, kind of bass. You know, so if rhythm appeals to you, you know, to try and find a way to work it through that progression. And by the same token, actually, you don't necessarily have to stay on that one chord each time. Kind of do the bass chord twice and then the bass chord one time on the next chord. Kind of divide it that way too. You know, or like for instance, in More Than Words by Extreme, actually, there's this cool little fingerstyle slap idea of kind of that bass chord kind of idea, and they kind of do the root and then the third of the chord actually at the very beginning. So you can do that for the E minor and the C and the D. It's kind of a bass chord, or bass chord slap, bass chord slap. With different bass notes with that too. But that might be kind of a cool idea to kind of play around with too. Viva La Vida actually by Coldplay has kind of a cool rhythm too, that whole. So there's a lot you could do with just downstrokes actually to kind of work some rhythm ideas. You could take an idea from another song, actually, even kind of like an arpeggio idea. Actually, kind of thinking a little Simple Man here, but you could kind of take that G with a lead in, and then break up more of the chord, and then the E minor, kind of that same idea, the C that same way, and then kind of the D to go back to your lead in, or you can throw more bass walks in there, which can be kind of cool too. Another random idea too, actually based off the down, down, up, up, down, is kind of a surf guitar idea, where you could do kind of a bass and then do almost a rake with the first down, and then do your up, up, down, up. So kind of a bass rake, up, up, down, up, bass rake, up, bass rake. So this could be kind of a cool idea to kind of work through that chord pattern too. Or something else that can be kind of cool is working more of kind of a jazz or swing bass line actually around the chord. And this can be a little weird and cool. And so if you take the G, for instance, you could do kind of a root, and I'm kind of working off the G major 13 right now. But you could do kind of a root and then an up on the chord, and then hit the arpeggio ideas from that we were using earlier, where you go second on the A, and then for the third of the chord, fifth fret on the A string for the fifth of the chord, and then you might want to go back to the second fret on the A string, kind of for that root, chord, third, fifth, third is kind of an idea. And then for the E minor, for instance, actually if you're doing the E minor 7 to the E minor 9, you can kind of work that as kind of a root up, and then go to the low E on the third fret for the flat third, and then fifth or seventh fret on the low E for the fifth, and then back to the third. So I'm working kind of a chord, right, has kind of a bass up, and then doing an arpeggio of the chord, and then for the C, for instance, you could do kind of a root. If we're doing the C major 13, randomly kind of taking that, you could do the A string for the root, and then up on the chord, and then low E for the third, and then third fret on the low E for the fifth, and then back to low E. Kind of, so we're going root, chord, third, fifth, third, and then for the D, you could kind of work that as kind of a D9, and work that as kind of a root up, and then go to low E on the second for the F sharp third, fifth fret on the low E string for the fifth, and then back to that second fret on the low E for the F sharp. So kind of root, chord, third, fifth, third is kind of the idea. So you have root, chord, third, fifth, third, root, third, third, fifth, third, root, third, fifth, third. Now there's lots of other ways to work moving bass lines around these too. Like sometimes chromatic lines can be very cool. After that third, for instance, on the G, you could go to fifth on the A, sixth fret on the A to lead into the E minor. Or it runs in the scale, actually. There's all kinds of ways to do this. And I just pulled some other voicings on you. On the C major, you could take that G major 7 shape that we were doing and slide up to 8th fret. So I got first finger on the low E8, second finger on the B8, third finger on the D 9th fret, pinky on the G string 9, so G major 7. And then for the D, actually, you could kind of take that G13 shape we were doing, but now do it on 10th fret for the D13. So now I got Louis on the 10, second finger on the D10, third finger on the G11, pinky over the high E and the B on the 12. So that's kind of crazy. And actually kind of keeps your third, fifth, third arpeggio actually kind of in the same string, actually. Actually kind of a cool thing to try. So there's all kinds of ways you can kind of work that. You almost end up with kind of a swingy jazz kind of idea, right? And that idea could completely transfer to fingerstyle too. You could make it kind of a thumb, fourth, and then use your thumb for the rest of the bass notes. So now I'm going root, third, root, chord, third, fifth, 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 third. Kind of working that for that kind of Bordeaux idea. So there's all kinds of ways you could kind of work this too. So you may want to kind of experiment or little chromatic lines kind of going note, you know, especially leading in by half step can be kind of a cool thing. Oh, that's nice. Let's see. So you can kind of experiment with kind of moving bass lines actually, and it doesn't necessarily have to line up with the arpeggio either. You can. Actually, the main idea of that is really the rhythm. Actually, is kind of keeping that steady. You know, it kind of gives you a lot of freedom, but you may want to hold off on that root note until the end. Kind of push that up. So it's kind of walking bass jazz idea. Too, or even taking those ideas, and if you wanted to work it, for instance, as a jazz waltz, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, kind of a thumb chord could be kind of a cool thing. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, yeah, or actually just a root chord, actually, or a bass chord. Root chord 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, root. With some of the root position chords too, kind of feeling that root chord. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Oh, and it almost feels like a Stevie Ray kind of thing too, especially if you're doing the pick for those. ways that you could do this. You could even make up licks actually kind of around the notes. This is more like a metal idea actually, or you can even use power chords. You could come up with a little idea around the note G, for instance, like a G, A flat G is a really nasty sound, right? But then you can do that idea for the E, and now it becomes a E, F, E. So we're playing against the key a little bit. And then for the C, you can do kind of a C, B flat. So the idea is I go up one fret, I come back one fret, right? But you can design all kinds of riffs. Or you can take that riff and back it up with power chords, right? Or you can use other shapes. And if you want a really nasty one, it would be the flat 5. Idea we were doing earlier. I mean, that riff idea. Kind of follow the chords that way. So there's lots and lots and lots of different ways to kind of approach it. And I know we've talked about a lot. I know there are a lot of other ones actually. You could take classical ideas, for instance, like rhythms from classical tunes, rhythms from popular tunes, from your favorite songs. That's what you should do. You should go and find all the riffs and pick out all the licks from all your favorite songs to kind of build your musical vocabulary. So then you can say whatever it is that you want to say with the guitar. So this is kind of a good overview with lots of ideas to kind of experiment with. But please go out and experiment and find a way to kind of play it for yourself. And how that kind of helps, especially with a lot of my how to play tutorials, is I'm taking the song and then breaking it down into kind of easier chord chunks. And then that way, if you've got a lot of chord vocabulary, you can turn an easy lesson into an advanced lesson on your own. Especially if you really are advanced, you should be able to look at a very easy chord pattern like our 1645 and make it just about as crazy as you want to get it. So you can take it from very, very easy to very, very complex, and reverse too. Sometimes you can take complex and make it easy, and that's what we try and do here at Months of Music Live. So thanks for watching, and best of luck, and I hope that helps kind of review a lot of different ideas and kind of give you some direction to get to the next level. So good luck.